Hey there, retro gamers! Welcome back to That's Entertainment, the channel where we deep dive into the games that made our childhoods unforgettable. Today, we're dialing back the clock to talk about 10 NES games that blew my mind as a kid. These aren't just great games, they were formative experiences. These were the kind of cartridges that made you sit up, slack-jawed, and think, whoa, games can do that? So strap in, blow the dust out of your cartridges, and let's go. Let's kick things off with the game that started it all. Super Mario Bros. Wasn't just the first game many of us played on the NES, it was a masterclass in design. The way it subtly taught you the rules as you played, that first Goomba, the breakable bricks, the pipe you could go down, it was all intentional. You certainly learned how to improve your score in many of the games that came before, but this one was practically a tutorial before there were concepts scratching at the back of a developer's mind. Also, before this, many games often felt disjointed or random. But Mario? He had an entire world to explore. Instead of locked screens, the scrolling made the game feel connected and alive. Even the act of going underground didn't feel like a gimmick. It felt like a hidden realm waiting to be discovered. For a kid back then, that cohesiveness was pure magic. We all know the Mega Man series had some of the best music and tightest platforming on the NES, but Mega Man 3 took things up a notch. Between the introduction of the slide mechanic and the debut of Rush the Robot Dog, it was packed with quality of life improvements and cool surprises. But what really blew my mind? There was a very special trick that you could only activate with a second controller. If you held right on that controller, you would be able to jump super high. It was fun to bypass certain parts of levels, but it went even further. If you fell into a pit while doing the trick, you didn't die. Instead, you became invulnerable. It felt like you were breaking the rules, peeking behind the curtain of the game itself. It was the first time I realized games had secrets even the developers might not have intended players to find. Few things capture the spirit of discovery quite like the original Legend of Zelda. That golden box and cartridge already made it feel like something special, like you were holding treasure. But once you pressed start after the epic intro music, total freedom. You could go anywhere, do anything, and lose yourself in Hyrule for hours. No hand-holding, no tutorials, just you, your sword, and a burning curiosity. At a time when most games funneled you from left to right, Zelda said, go get lost. And we did. Happily. There's perhaps no other game on this list whose modern equivalents, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so accurately reflect the sense of exploration and wonder. Now all we need is a blend of that and the Zelda-like gameplay with the big dungeons and the unlockable items. One minute you're piloting a tank through side-scrolling levels, the next you're hopping out to explore on foot in top-down shooter mode. Blaster Master was one of the first games I played that blended multiple gameplay styles seamlessly. And it wasn't just a gimmick. Both perspectives were fun and challenging in their own right, and finding ways to have them work with each other instead of against each other made the game feel more exploratory. Also, the boss battles were insane. Each one felt larger than life, and even the palette-swapped couple were interesting mechanically. The music was stellar, and the environments felt massive. It was like getting two games in one, and that kind of variety was rare on the NES. Okay, hear me out. Skate or Die might not have had the narrative heft of other games on this list, but as a kid, the sheer variety of what you could do blew my mind. Freestyle ramp, jousting in the pool, downhill racing. It felt like a complete experience, not just a single mechanic stretched thin. And that radical 80s vibe? Perfection. Even the main menu music had a punk edge that made you feel cooler just playing it. Mike D'Angelo fun fact coming in, when I was a kid, maybe 5 or 6 years old, I entered a tournament at my local mall, and Skate or Die was one of the games I had to score well at in order to place. My parents ended up getting me Skate or Die, the only tournament game I didn't have yet, so that I could practice. I still have my trophy. I would never hold a candle to the elite gamers of today, but for a fleeting moment, I felt like a gaming god. I also got knocked out at the next stop along the tournament. Darn you, Spy Hunter. Metal Gear wasn't content to be another run and gun. No, this game asked you to sneak, to think, to conserve ammo, to use cardboard boxes as stealth tools. It was complex in a way I hadn't seen before. It didn't just test your reflexes, it tested your brain. It had radio conversations, item management, and enough obscure objectives to make your head spin. And that's when traps like huge pits, gas, and electrified floors weren't trying to make a quick end of your experience. It didn't leave out some of the tried and true gaming mainstays. Fun bosses littered the game as well, making it a total package. It showed me that games could tell deeper, more immersive stories, even on the NES. Rob the Robot may not have worked as smoothly as we wanted, but when it did work, it was pure magic. Gyromite was the first time I saw a physical toy interacting with my video game console, if you don't count the zapper, that is. It felt like science fiction. Watching Rob slowly pick up spinning tops and activating buttons on your controller, it was clunky, yes, but unforgettable. It made the NES feel like a portal to the future, where games and the real world could collide. Even now, it stands as a reminder that Nintendo has always been about pushing boundaries. These days, you can still play Gyromite without the famous peripheral, but for those of us who got a chance to try it as it was intended, it was a strange and interesting experience indeed. Boxing games weren't new, but Punch-Out felt like nothing else. The oversized, charismatic opponents, from Glass Joe to King Hippo to Bald Bull, were more than static, bland enemies. They were characters with personalities, which helped imply their fighting style, even if in some cases it leaned into some stereotypes that may not have aged well. Each fight was a puzzle wrapped in a rhythm game, and the animation was insanely detailed for the time. Compared to the tiny sprites in other games, these fighters felt huge. And it all controlled with such precision. It was brutal, rewarding, and endlessly replayable. Side note, I was always drawn to Little Mac because I was also a scrawny little scrapper. How do you top the original Mario? With a game so ambitious it practically felt like it belonged on the next generation of consoles. Super Mario Bros. 3 introduced the overworld map, new suits like the Tanuki and Hammer Bros suits, themed worlds, and those dastardly Koopalings. Every single element was polished to a shine. It was one of those games that was infinitely replayable and great fun to play with friends. Finding out secrets like dropping behind white blocks to get whistles and swimming underwater to avoid entire sections of tough levels were super cool. And those airship levels, their appearance here is probably one of the big reasons I feature them in some of my books. Super Mario Bros. 3 was a full-on spectacle, and it redefined what an NES game could be. Topping the list is Castlevania 3, a game that felt epic in every sense of the word. Multiple characters? Check. Branching paths? Check. Absolutely haunting music and some of the most beautiful visuals on the NES? Double check. Whether you played as Trevor Belmont or swapped over to Sypha, Grant, or Alucard, the variety kept things fresh and fascinating. It was like an RPG and a platformer had a goth baby. Every level felt like a new spooky challenge, and the ambition of it all still holds up. It was everything I wanted from a game at the time and more. It was a fantastic way to wrap up the trilogy on the system, and to keep some life in the franchise until it moved over to the next generation systems, where it continued to shine. There you have it, folks. 10 NES games that didn't just entertain me, they transformed how I saw video games entirely. What were the NES games that blew your mind back in the day? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you liked this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another blast of 8-bit nostalgia. Thanks for watching That's Entertainment. Check out our review for Arcade Paradise. It's a very fun, retro-heavy game. If you're into D&D, you can also check out our sister channel, Tellust, where we have plenty of maps on display. And we'll also be refreshing this channel with new retro reviews, so keep an eye out.